The program that you're about to hear contains material that may be offensive to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Go ahead. Make my day.
2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to Write and Writer, the official podcast of the Washington Free Beacon, sponsored by HoneyBook. I'm your host, Elizabeth Harrington. You can follow me on Twitter at LizWFB. The Free Beacon podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. Joining me from the right today is Free Beacon Editor-in-Chief Matthew Continetti. You may remember him from such mainstream media outlets as National Affairs and the Boston Herald. You can follow him on Twitter at Continetti. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Liz.
And further to Matt's right is Free Beacon President Aaron Harrison, who also has a 93% approval rating with the GOP. We're not exactly sure who does it around the office, but he signs the checks, and that's good enough for us. Hello, Harrison.
Good morning, Liz.
Returning to the program today is the chairman of the Free Beacon, Michael Goldfarb, international man of mystery and licensed Republican consultant. He always keeps our panelists in line. Hello, Goldfarb.
Hello, Liz.
Up first on Write and Writer. And what's definitely not a fishing expedition, the Democratic House Judiciary Committee sent letters to 81 people requesting documents to probe the Trump campaign, the president's business, and family. If you ever step foot in Trump Tower, you probably got a letter, but that's not all. The Ways and Means Committee is preparing to demand the president's tax returns from the IRS. The overreaching investigations lead many to believe the Democrats have already made the decision to impeach the president. But what for, you might ask? Well, that's what the investigations are for. President Trump called the document request a big fat fishing expedition, desperately in search of a crime. Matt, will this backfire on the Dems?
Well, Muller was an investigation in search of a crime, and while it found little crimes and
process
crimes in the course of the investigation, it never landed the big enchilada, which was proof of a conspiracy to hack the DNC and thus influence the 2016 election returns. And of course, maybe Mueller has anything, but has something that we don't know of. But I would say that all of these moves on the part of the Democrats suggest that they're scared
that they have nothing,
and that Mueller is going to be turn out to be a nothing burger. And so they've moved to stage 2, which is more or less harassment. I don't think this is the beginning of impeachment, because I think that the Democratic leadership knows the second it actually turns into an impeachment, they will lose. Mm-hmm. And so what they have to do is they have to walk right up to the line of impeachment through all of these various fishing expeditions, but not cross it. But that's a hard game to play when your party is really driven by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar.
Harrison?
They're so on message, aren't they? 85 investigations, 3,000 subpoenas. The list goes on. Like everybody, this is a problem. When you flood the zone like this, nobody can focus on a single thing, so the message is muddled. You said it exactly right in the introduction to this. They are in search of a crime, right? This is like the X-Files, right? Mueller has become Fox Mulder. Like, the truth is out there.
The truth is out there.
They refuse to let it go. Like, the truth is staring them in the face. The truth is just like, just nothing there, okay? So that's the truth, is nothing.
Well, yeah, and then they have to find something, which is why they're throwing it all against the wall to see what, if anything,
this
they
is
can
the
get.
Problem with the special prosecutor in the beginning, is that the scope of the investigation was so broad that it could be anything to anyone, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. It'll go on forever. I think it's going on forever. I think this is going to be going on in 100 years. Okay.
There still won't be over 2016, Goldfarb.
Two things about this. One, Nadler is indicting so many people for no good reason that he is going to end up basically putting every lawyer in the city to work for one of these clients. And part of me really does wonder how much of this is just like, well, this is great for everybody, right? Like, they get to cast this super wide net. All their lawyer buddies get to, everybody, there are already so many lawyers working on all this Trump stuff. I think some of these people are genuinely going to have trouble finding a lawyer in town who doesn't have a conflict on this. It's going to be really difficult for these folks to get fair legal representation. The other piece of it is obviously he doesn't have anything if you're subpoenaing 70 people, and the problem is these guys are not the FBI. They are not that smart. They don't really know how to run an investigation. You have a Democratic staff that hasn't been in power in 10 years? How long has it been since they took back the House?
Almost,
8 years.
yeah.
8 years, okay. So how many people on that committee, staff-wise, actually have real experience in running an investigation? Not a lot, I'm guessing. So they're starting with 70 people, and they've got to funnel their way down and find a crime. It'll take them 80 years to find out, something that's actually useful. And meanwhile, they have 8 other different investigations going. There just isn't the amount of talent on the Democratic side to prosecute this effectively in the time they have. And there aren't enough lawyers in the city to cover everybody who's been subpoenaed. So I just think it's going to be a joke.
That's why it's death by 1,000 cuts. You don't need to find a crime. Look what happened to Kavanaugh. There was nothing there. They made it up.
Yeah.
So they'll make things up out of what this committee
look
finds.
what happened. We won.
Well, we could win again, but
Right.
it's going to be a constant nuisance for the president and all of his allies until they lose the House.
That's exactly right. They made it up the last time that they were in power. If anybody remembers the U.S. Attorney's fake scandal, that was a gigantic waste of time for 6 months.
Yeah. All right. Up next. Johanna Omar is causing more headaches for Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats, who are moving forward with a resolution condemning anti-Semitism in response to her latest anti-Semitic comments. The media characterizes Omar's remarks as allegedly anti-Semitic because it's very subtle to call Israel evil, accuse Israel of hypnotizing the world because it's all about the Benjamins, and her latest suggesting Jewish people have an allegiance to a foreign country. I fear there might be a pattern here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge problem for the Democratic Party. One that they're not necessarily handling all that well, and this resolution of disapproval.
Yeah, Nancy's appearing on Rolling Stone with her.
Landed in my mailbox yesterday at the very time that Pelosi's preparing a resolution of disapproval that doesn't name Omar
Right.
To go before the House floor on Wednesday, the day after we record this. Here's the issue: is that this is not accidental behavior.
Right.
On Omar's part. She means it. She knows what she's doing. She really believes all of this. And she is, and this is what's so terrible about it. She's mainstreaming anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
By forcing a debate of her over her comments, she's making it more acceptable to say them in the public sphere.
Yeah.
And unless she's defeated in a Democratic primary, she'll continue to do that, and she'll continue to serve as an example for other people who share her bigoted views.
So she's just asking questions at the end of the day, as she says.
Right. Goldfarb.
Well, considering this new evidence out of West Virginia this week of her role in the 9/11 attacks, I think she's being treated quite graciously by the Congress. You would think that would get some condemnation. No, I mean, Matt makes the point that she could be challenged in a primary. I don't really see how the hell that's going to happen. She won with 80% of the vote in that district. But I sort of take the other view, which is she is a nightmare for the Dems.
Yep.
And she refuses to learn the lesson. I'm not sure, does she really understand what she's saying? I mean, on some level, I'm not sure. I mean, she keeps stepping on a rake. Like, the sophisticated anti-Semites know how to say this without creating the damage and ramifications for themselves
I don't think she cares.
Well, okay,
It's
if
who
she
she
doesn't care,
is.
then great. I mean, it's sort of a blessing that instead of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's pretty face of socialism, we get this scary face of socialism that's on TV all day. I think it is going to scare the out of people. I think she's going to be a very useful cudgel for Republicans in the next election. And I welcome this clear contrast between the, Republican Party, which is unambiguously and unabashedly pro-Israel, and the Ilhan Omar, who hates Jews. And that's your choice. And maybe we finally get 35% of the Jews to vote Republican this time.
Well, what the hell is going on in Minnesota's 5th district? This was Keith Ellison's district. Mm-hmm. I mean, so, what's the primary going to be? It's going to be like
someone worse.
we should shut the
It's
district
getting
down
worse.
until we figure out what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you find someone there who shares all of her views, but thinks that saying these things repeatedly and unabashedly,
right? Who just
is
doesn't
harmful.
say them in public. Yeah,
I mean, maybe we can go over to Somalia and work the refugee camp, see if we can't, there's a...
I'm sure there are plenty of Somali Americans who don't share her views in public.
I hope you're right, but I'm not sure.
I think an independent redistricting commission for the state of Minnesota needs to be assigned.
All right, up next, the Democratic field was dealt a crushing blow when Eric Holder announced he is not running for president. But an even bigger defeat came when Hillary Clinton said she is not running either. But she assured us she's not going anywhere and will continue to play an active role in 2020. Goldfarb, too bad.
Yeah, it is too bad. I got to say, I'm surprised Holder's not running because I actually think he would have been formidable. He's smart. He's like not a polished politician, but he's smart. He would have had the Obama base, I think, pretty excited about him. I think Obama himself would have been pretty excited about him. I think Obama might have, endorsed him ultimately and been sort of a stealth endorser of his campain. Matt, you look skeptical.
Have you ever seen this man talk? He's not a cold fish. He's like deep frozen fish. He is the opposite of charisma. Really? I mean, I don't think so. I don't think he would have gone anywhere.
Also, I'm hesitant to say that Obama is going to endorse anybody other than himself.
Right.
I
mean, seriously.
I'm not sure he's ever
or
given
Michelle. Did you see his comment?
Oh.
We need to train 1 million Baracks and
Oh,
Michelles.
gosh, yeah.
Wow.
But Hickenlooper also got in.
Well, he's in, but, Jeff Merkley.
Okay, fine. I'll grant you Holder had a better shot, Mike, than Hickenlooper does.
But Jeff
Such an exciting news on 2020 this weekend.
Jeff Merkley from Oregon is out.
Merkley's out.
So, there's one, you're getting a lot of people saying they're not going to run.
That's a Schumer special.
Yeah. Now,
I'm sure Schumer was like, not
I can't have my
create
entire
another
caucus.
open seat for me.
Yeah.
Because he had to decide on reelect.
Oh, he couldn't do
That would have been an
simultaneous
open
run,
seat,
huh?
and it would have been a possible grab. So
Sad. Well, look, I think Hillary is going to be an albatross over this field.
Yeah, she's not going anywhere.
If there is no clear-cut front runner in this thing by October, the calls are going to start being made back to Chappaqua to get her back in, because she's the only one that can. She and Joe Biden are the only people that have the luxury of waiting long enough where they do not have to build name recognition. They have 100% name ID in the Democratic Party. That is why you get in early, is to build that name ID over the course of the year. She can just jump in from the rafters at the very end, like, Sting coming in WCW Starrcade 1997.
I think she just comes in and endorses Bloomberg, and then, and that way she gets to stick it to Bernie, and she gets a big fat donation to the library when it's all over.
Well, she gets the donation, but I'm not sure that sticks it to Bernie. I think that actually helps Bernie. It burnishes his left-wing credentials, because his criticism of Hillary is that she's been this moderate, wanting to compromise their progressive values her entire life. Honestly, I think Bernie's the front runner at this point. I don't see anybody that has a cohesive message and in a fervent following that matches his at this point.
All right, now it's time to check in with our sponsor, HoneyBook. Do you own a small business? Frustrated by dealing with back and forth emails, endless paperwork, and getting paid? HoneyBook.com can help you spend less time handling the administration work and more time doing what you love. HoneyBook is an all-in-one business management platform for creative small businesses. HoneyBook makes it easy to streamline your process with client and calendar management tools and custom branded brochures, proposals, and contracts. You can even get e-signatures, generate invoices, and get paid faster, all within one online system. Over 75,000 photographers, designers, event professionals, and other solo entrepreneurs have saved hundreds, if not thousands of hours a year with HoneyBook. And that's why we've partnered with HoneyBook.com to offer Free Beacon listeners 50% off the first year of HoneyBook with the promo code WFB. So get started at HoneyBook.com today and use promo code WFB for 50% off your first year. Again, that's HoneyBook.com, promo code WFB. We're pleased to be joined once again by Dr. Leonard Pondriver, the Vice President of the David Gergen Institute for Excellence in Bipartisanship. Hello, Dr. Pondriver.
Bonjour.
I know you've been having some thoughts at the Institute that you're trying to bipartisanize this Ilhan Omar situation.
Thanks so much for asking
Yes.
about that. I listened to the earlier segment, and I hear a lot of anger. And I understand why many Jews and pro-Israel Americans are offended. But you know what I hear? You know what David Gergen hears?
What?
He hears a cry for help. He hears a person who's new to Congress, doesn't know Washington very well, keeps saying things that are controversial, and he's hearing an opportunity. So what do we have coming up in the next couple weeks?
What's that?
What?
It's the American Israel Public Affairs Committee's annual policy conference. Now, of course, also known as AIPAC, one of the great organizations as far as the Gergen Institute is concerned, because they are fiercely devoted to bipartisanship. Just look at their great record at the second term of Obama, where they
It really won them a lot.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
That devotion to being bipartisan.
So if anybody can understand the Gergen Institute vision, it's
In a
it's
third way,
AIPAC.
right.
So why not do something bold? Let's invite Ilhan Omar to address AIPAC.
Now, is this
But
from-
it's not a speech. It's a dialogue.
Ooh,
You understand?
a
It's
conversation.
dialogue. It's a conversation.
This
Here's
is
somebody-
out of the box bipartisan thinking.
You bet
I
it
like
is.
it.
You bet it is, because here you have one person, you have a new member of Congress who doesn't really know much about AIPAC, is kind of saying things that are not exactly true. And here you have an organization that needs to reach out to the Somali American community. There are not a lot of AIPAC supporters in the Somali American community. At least that's what our preliminary
Go figure.
research has shown. And so I think it's a win-win. It's out of the box bipartisanship, and I don't understand why Howard Court does not jump on this idea. Ilhan Omar Policy Conference 2019.
To really bring us all
Let's
together.
make that happen.
You want it on the main stage, not a breakout session or a panel. You want it on the plenary.
I want
You want it right there in
want
front
a
of the-
comfy couch, Jeff Goldberg,
Yeah.
Ilhan Omar, AIPAC.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
You know,
Let's
under
do
the
it.
lights.
The Institute's also been studying the situation in Venezuela.
Yes, and it's
What have you found?
well, it looks like we're at a situation now where it's hard to come up with, sort of 50-50 solutions. And it looks like, one side's going to win, and and let me tell you something. This guy has no sympathy for Nicolas Maduro. He seems like a pretty bad guy. It's more than he's made mistakes. So let's just get that out there, okay? But when I hear all this discussion about how he's got to go, and I look at Marco Rubio's Twitter feed, and I'm seeing, a dead Gaddafi, a dead Ceausescu, and it's like, we're getting the pick. That's not going to lead to a compromise. That's not going to lead to a bipartisan kind of style solution. So we need a kind of conference to bring everyone together, but who can do it? Now,
Right.
unfortunately, Kofi Annan is no longer with us.
That's true.
He was my first choice. And of course, I'd love to go to the United Nations. They're so busy right now with Syria and, condemning Israel and everything. So I have a crazy idea. Who has credibility
Amal Clooney.
with social? No, it's not Amal Clooney, though. That's not bad. Who has the credibility right now with socialists,
Right.
but has also been pretty good about talking about humanitarian conditions in Venezuela? There's one guy, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
You're looking for an opportunity. You're running for president. You want a sort of something on the world stage that says, I'm a player. I'm serious. I'm a big boy.
He's going to go to Caracas.
I want him to go to Caracas and listen and
have
get
to listen.
other people to listen, because I don't know of any other American right now besides maybe Ben Rhodes who would have that kind of credibility to walk into the presidential palace in Caracas
much credibility.
and say, I'm sorry, Nicolas Maduro, as a fellow socialist, you've maybe gone too far. I'm not saying you should leave, but it's time to listen.
What if we made like a Kofi Annan hologram? Like
I
they
wish
did
there
with,
we
with
we
Will
are,
I Am
believe
or
me,
Reagan.
I-
We
You
could
guys
do
need to
that.
get a grant for that.
Yeah, we could make a hologram like they did and kind of have him lead the
I
conference.
mean, listen, we have summer fellowships open, Matthew. If you want,
You
to
want me
come
to
the
apply for
that's
that?
the kind of out of the box bipartisanship that gets us really going. I just see that Senator Sanders, because I have been I love this internet thing. So I go on the internet and I've seen all these old videos of him in the Soviet Union talking
He really
about,
likes the puppet
and
theater.
he's got the real deal socialist credentials. Not a lot of American politicians have that these
He's
days.
got the
he's the only
Soviet
one.
chops. He's got it.
Bernie
Well, him and
Sanders
de Blasio.
Yeah.
Those are like
Right.
the two Marxist side.
Right.
Elected
I mean,
office.
he was there for Daniel Ortega when it mattered. I'm talking about in the 80s. Right. So here's a guy who I think, could maybe get through to him. I mean, what are we going to send Nikki Haley, Mike Pompeo? Listen, I love them. They're great. They're great bipartisans in their own right. But they're not going to break through to a Maduro. And I think Ben Rhodes is just not seasoned enough yet, even though, he did some wonderful work with Cuba and Raul Castro. At this point, does he have the stature to address a Maduro? Not the way that Bernie Sanders can. And so, I mean, I would love to sort of get that idea in front of Bernie Sanders or, some of the people on his staff like Matt Duss or something like that, and just sort of say, here's an opportunity to make a real difference.
Well, thank you, Dr. Pondriver. Please stick around for a Culture Round.
Can't wait.
Up first, Google set out to address its gender pay gap, and it turns out it was men who were paid less money than women for doing similar work. The annual study led to pay raises for thousands of men, which of course did not make everyone happy. Joelle Emerson, a diversity consultant, told the New York Times Google was advancing a, quote, flawed and incomplete sense of equality by making sure men and women receive similar salaries for similar work. Instead, they should be addressing equity, which would involve examining the structural hurdles that women face as engineers, whatever that means. Google uses an algorithm to set employees' salaries that uses factors like performance, location, and job, which means even the artificial intelligence is biased against men. Matt, the war on men knows no bounds.
That's funny. So the algorithm was sexist against
Yep.
men. Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Fascinating.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I'm going to have to rejigger the algorithm that determines pay for Free Beacon employees because I just want to make sure it's working accurately.
Harrison.
Well, anything that can confirm a preordained bias, I suppose, is what we're really in search of here, right?
Right.
The disappointment that must have hit the Google,
the Googleplex.
The Googleplex Wokebot that did this thing.
Wokebot.
That studied this. It must have been so confused by the end. I don't know what to think about it. I mean, it's just, look, if you're running a successful company, which I assume Google can be considered most universally because it's worth nearly $1 trillion at this point, you're going to pay based on merit. That's what this country is about. It is about the best people, hire the best people for the job, pay them appropriately, and you're going to have a successful company. So, it just shows that either this is Google propaganda or Google's actually, Google looks good either way.
Goldfarb.
There are structural problems, but I think the women are sort of at odds with themselves over how to address these things. I recently had a conversation with a woman about this, which, the stuff like, okay, the structural issues are like places like, relationships and connections and where business gets done and those kind of things. And women want to say, on the one hand, we want to be treated fairly, but on the other hand, I don't want to go to that business meeting at the strip club where important business is going to get done and like new initiatives are going to be devised.
Can't have it all, no.
And so I just think they need to resolve for themselves, what are they willing to do the things that men do to get ahead? Like, I'm willing to do, I go to the meeting wherever the meeting is, okay? That's where I go. And if they're not willing to do that, that's
you
fine.
Work so
I respect
hard.
that.
Yeah.
I respect that. But then you can't complain after the fact, especially when it turns out that your complaining was because you were actually being paid more than the guy who's doing the same job. So.
All right. Up next, shooting an epic Game of Thrones battle sequence sounds unbelievably traumatic. According to Quartz, the much-anticipated final season will include the longest consecutive battle sequence ever committed to film. The final battle took 11 weeks to film and was shot entirely at night, where performers and crew battled freezing temperatures, icy rain, reeking horse manure, and fish-scented choking smoke. Quote, there are moments you're just broken as a human and just want to cry, said Maisie Williams, who plays Arya Stark. Everybody prays they never have to do this again, said Rory McCann, who plays the Hound. Harrison, I really feel bad for them at $500,000 per episode.
Yeah, it's going to suck when these people look back at the one time that they were employed on the biggest TV show in the world 20 years from now, and they're really going to look back and say, "Oh man, I'm so glad that's over." No, they're going to be begging for a job like that. They're going to be so the cast of Game of Thrones, and I've watched this show pretty consistently now for the past couple of years. I mean, there's like 300 people. There are 300 main characters on this show. So, I think that they're all very fortunate to have these jobs. I don't know why they're complaining. I don't care if they got a bunch of fish smoke that's like jamming them up and making them nauseous. I don't understand. Also, this really is intriguing to me because I can't wait to see this episode because
now it sounds great, though.
Nothing could be worse for somebody like me than like watching that Battle of the Bastards one more time.
Yeah.
There was a scene where there was like 7,000 troops and they just started to squeeze each other to death, basically. It was this medieval battle that's going on, and Jon Snow's in the middle, and he's just being crushed to death by 7,000 other bodies. It is literally worse than walking down Bourbon Street at Mardi Gras.
Yes. Matt?
Did they say how long the battle
is going to be in the... Yeah. I don't know.
They said the show's more than 60 minutes.
Yeah, I mean...
Saying it's just the entirety
and
of that?
And it took 11 months to just record, shoot.
Why does the smoke have to smell like fish? It's
more
television
authentic.
is a visual medium.
The funny thing is, all anybody wants to see is the f***ing dragon and the dragon lady. So all these people are kind of extras.
Naked dragon lady.
Yeah.
I want to know if Dr. Pondriver, we know that you do watch television such as Empire.
Love Empire.
Do you
Have
like
you ever
the
watched
prestige
Game
cable
of
dramas?
Thrones? What are your thoughts on HBO, the home box office?
Well, I like HBO primarily for movies, but I have not seen Game of Thrones
No,
yet.
you've never seen Game of Thrones.
I watched,
a little late.
I'm kind of binge watching now 90210 because of Luke Perry.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, season
It's
one
very
and a half.
sad. It's very sad news.
So you just started.
I just restarted, I should
you
say, and
just
it's
That's a good idea. I might do that.
mean, it's more than 20 years old, but the
How's it
issues
hold
they
up?
raise.
Is it problematic? I
I
imagine
don't
there's
think
lots
it's problematic
of problematic
at all. I think
storylines.
it's forcing us to look at some of the issues for like some of those Los Angeles teenagers of that era, but they're it's universal problems in a lot of ways.
Well, Dr. Pondriver, I do have a question. So Luke Perry is currently starring on Riverdale.
Right.
Another
they got to write him
major-
off.
Have you seen that one? That's the art. It's set in the Archie comics
there's
world.
so many television shows.
there are.
What happened to when it was like Hill Street Blues, Taxi,
talking
Laverne and Shirley? I mean, that was kind of a golden era for television, and I guess we'll never get back to it. But I mean, there's too many choices at this point.
I was going to ask Doctor who he thought should either replace, if they should write him out altogether, or they should replace him with a comparable actor.
Well, Jesse Smollett is looking for work. I don't know how that would work, but I'd hate to see just one mistake and a promising career like that.
Right.
It's tough.
All right, up next, March is National Deli Meat Month, and the National American Meat Institute is using the opportunity to raise awareness about hot dog sushi, the new culinary concept called beefshi, which uses bologna, summer sausage, corned beef, and pastrami as central sushi ingredients. There's the potato stick crunch maki, which is a hot dog wrapped in sushi rice and crushed potato sticks and drizzled with onion dip. Quote, Americans have always loved beef, and over the past few decades, their love of sushi has catapulted, said Eric Mittenthal of the North American Meat Institute. We couldn't think of a better way to celebrate National Deli Meat Month than focusing on the marriage of beef and sushi. Goldfarb, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with sushi is you don't feel ill after eating it. So this solves that problem. You'll eat it and then you'll feel as sick as you do after eating Chinese. So that's the perfect solution.
Oh. What is Dr. P? Do you like sushi?
I do like sushi. I don't like this. It sounds disgusting.
Is it? You feel it strikes me as kind of an example of cultural appropriation.
Ooh. I didn't think about that.
Careful,
I don't know in what
careful
direction.
with cultural appropriation because we're really of two minds of that at the Institute. On the one hand, that's a wonderful kind of dialogue of cultures. On the other hand, we have to be very sensitive about narratives. Right. So it's a tough one, but I just don't like the idea of taking the meat out of the sandwich like that. Maybe that's just me. I'm old fashioned. Get me a tab in Hill Street Blues episodes, and I'm happy.
This is a
tab.
This is a topic that I was dreading getting to today. I was hoping that we were going to pass over me because I got to tell you, I'm playing a little hurt today.
Oh, no.
Oh, he's been waiting all weekend to talk about this.
Little Ivanka gave Dada a big kiss on Friday when he walked through the door. Unfortunately, that kiss happened to be laced with norovirus, and I've been laid up for the past 48 hours, pretty much immobilized.
You poor thing.
Everything has been making me nauseous for the entire weekend. I thought that I was feeling a little bit better last night, but then I watched part 2 of the Michael Jackson Leaving Neverland documentary.
It's a real healthy choice.
That was the wrong choice.
Yeah,
it was the wrong choice. And now we're here on my.
They had to take Michael Jackson off the board of the David Gergen Institute for Bipartisanship.
They need to dig his corpse up and re-execute him. I mean, the fact that Michael Jackson did all those horrible acts to those children, he needs another lethal injection. That's all I'm going to say.
We went from putting the hot dog in the sushi to...
Oh, God. Just
Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today's edition of Right Writer. I'd like to give a special thanks to our producer, LB4, and of course our free-beacon guests, Matthew Continetti, Aaron Harrison, Michael Goldfarb, and Dr. Leonard Pondriver. Remember, find us on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Just search for Free Beacon. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a positive review. Like listener, the real Michael V, who says, I can't even tell the difference between Goldfarb and Continetti, but man, is it rich to listen to Liz and Harrison own the squishes. Or should I say squibs, squish secret libs. Keep up the good work. Until next time.